I'm back. Sorry, I tried to do this, but I had technical problems. And bear with me, I'm going to have another technical problem before we talk about Canada. Actually, how do you turn this thing around? Look, Aaron got me this. There, I have a halo light now. I have a halo light. So now I'm going to look a lot more illuminated when I make videos. Sorry, I got to put it in here, but it's like a super tight fit. Don't want to turn off my camera. Oh man. You know, I tried to do this before. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to get it in there. I don't know how people do this and they make it look so easy. All this for halo light. Hi guys. Oh, hi Pedro, how are you? I was just trying to put my phone in the clamp under the halo light. It hurt my finger too. It's not as easy as it looks. You guys, this is hard work. Anyone who says get a real job, they don't know what they're talking about. This is so hard. Even just trying to put your camera in a halo light, it's like, it's not easy. Hi Holly. Hi Anonymous. Wait, let me see if I can move it up a little bit. Okay, there we go. That's a bit better. Whew, I'm worn out already and I just got here. So crazy. And I really did pinch my finger in that thing. But yeah, hi Lincoln. Hi Lena. How are you guys doing? Hi Truth Seeker. I've got my computer open here because I did bookmark some links. I annoy my friends by bookmarking links on Facebook. And I don't think they know that. I just do it so that I'll know where the stuff is, you know, when I want to talk to you guys about it. And you know how people use their Facebook as like a way to try to promote their causes? Hi Dusty. Hi Paul. You know, people like they'll be like really into something and they'll post about it all the time on their Facebook and it's so annoying. Well, I think that's what people think that I'm doing. And I think that they think that whatever I post is what I believe, which isn't necessarily the case because I'll post things that I don't agree with at all just to bookmark them in case I want to talk about them later. So it's very confusing for everybody. And while I was in Europe, I didn't do that. I just posted nice pictures. I just posted like a normal person for a while. Now I'm back to posting all my links here. And oh, it's already 10 o'clock. It's late. And I probably shouldn't be doing this so late, but I really wanted to touch base with you guys. And you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to just share the link for this. Hi, Eric. Oh, hey, nice to have you here. I'm going to share the link on my Patreon to not let them down.
We'll begin today.
Man, like, seriously, I feel like Mr. Bean trying to operate this, like, so bad. It's so awkward. Okay, bear with me for 1 second. Excuse me, please. Talk amongst yourselves while I try to share this live stream on my Patreon. How's my back? Thank you. I'm glad you asked. Have you got an hour? I feel like such an old lady. Like, better nobody ask me about my back. Boy, let me tell you, I had so much back pain. Oh my God. Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to just say I'm live. And then I have to leave them a message. Hi guys, join us, please. Sending a message. Tag live. There we go. Publish. I hope I got that right, or they're going to show up and they're going to be like, what? There's nothing here. They get the wrong link. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's definitely me with my ugly thumbnail. My back, I had an MRI today, actually. I had my first MRI ever. And I was kind of scared because, like, first of all, they asked me, are you claustrophobic? And I was like, oh my God, why are you going to put me in like a coffin? Like, you're scaring me. Yes, I'm claustrophobic. You might need some medication, but I don't like the medication. So I decided, no thanks. I'll just tough it out. I mean, I'll just get through it, you know? So I go there and actually I went to a private clinic. I went to a private clinic because it's Canada. And if I don't go to a private clinic, I might get an MRI next year. And if not, in 2024. But I decided I'd rather have it now. So you did, you cried, Lena, you cried in the MRI. Okay, I'll tell you what I did to cope with the MRI. But first of all, I went to this private clinic. It's called IRM Southwest. That's how they say MRI in French. It's IRM. It's backwards, basically. Anyway, so they have this like open, it's called the open something machine. And so you're not all the way in the tunnel, like your head's kind of out or part of it. And they give you headphones. They give you headphones with music. But let me tell you, when I came in there, I heard what I thought was techno. I heard like this, like, okay, that's really bad techno. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a beatboxer, but I heard this noise, and I swear, I thought, because they told me, well, we can play music for you while you're in there. So I get there and I'm listening to this music, and I'm like, gosh, if that's the music they're going to play, well, that's terrible. I don't want to listen to that. And I'm like, is that the music you're going to play? And she's like, oh, that's not music. That's the machine. But it was like doing like a beat. And plus, let me just turn off my sound here. A beat plus sound effects. I mean, it really sounded like some kind of really horrible quality techno music that was just very repetitive. And I thought, man, that's crazy. It's almost like I'm tripping, and I'm like listening to the MRI machine, and I'm thinking it sounds like music, and I'm thinking that's really bad music. So she's like, no, it's not music, it's the MRI machine. And apparently I'm not the only one who thinks it's a dance party in there. She gives me these white headphones, and she says, well, like, which channel on the radio would you like? So I'm like, I don't know, put on Shom FM, which is like the rock and roll channel. And she put on something else. And once you're in it, you're inside this machine, and it goes like raw, click, click. It makes a lot of noise, but honestly, having those headphones on canceled out like quite a bit of it. Like, it took it down a lot. Plus, there was music playing, and I was listening to the Hot Stepper. Remember that song from the 90s? Here come the Hot Stepper, murder rap. I'm the lyrical gangster, murder rap. I'm listening to this while I'm in this thing, and I just kept my eyes closed and tried to sort of meditate while I was in there, and listen to the Hot Stepper. And that got me thinking about a whole bunch of stuff. Like, that really got me thinking about gangster rap. I could go off on another tangent about that. But anyway, like, listening to gangster rap and having my eyes closed, being in the MRI machine, it actually went fairly quickly. It was 20 minutes, but it was really not that bad. I didn't need any drugs. I didn't have a freak out. At one point, I started freaking out a little bit, and I was like, oh, it's all in your mind. And then they gave me this CD here, which had my results on it, and I could see my spine, and it was like, oh my God. So your spine is like stacked, right? And one of the vertebrae of my spine has like moved out. It's moved out of place like 25%. So I don't know how that's going to go back in. And I'm actually surprised that it's still out that far, because I feel a lot better. I can drive my car. I can dress myself. I can put my own shoes on. It was a rough month. I had to get my son to like pull my pants, not the top part, but like the foot part. I could not lean over to take my own pants off. So it was kind of messed up, and not being able to drive, I had to take the bus and walk everywhere. And it's like, that really slows you down. So it made me really grateful for the car. And I slept in here on my son's bed. And now the pain has gone down a lot. I don't really know why, because when you look at the MRI, my vertebrae is still out. And the thing is, there's this like sac that like runs behind your vertebrae that's full of like spinal fluid and nerve endings. I'm wondering whether that's the spinal cord, because I learned this from a doctor's explanation on YouTube. And so what happens when this moves is part of that gets like trapped in between the bones. And when I saw the x-ray, I could see that there's like a little sort of peak of like bright white poking out. So I don't know. But apparently, like where it is, it's not going to paralyze me. But let me tell you though, this business about the spine being stacked like this and sliding out, and it's like this, it's like that far. Like if this was one vertebrae on top of the other and they're supposed to be like this, okay, it's done this. It's that far. It's like my spine is in sort of dislocating. I don't need the TENS unit. I have one. It didn't work because the pain goes down my leg, and yeah, I could put it on. It's sort of like it just goes zzz, and then for a second, like you don't notice the pain, but in between pulses, it comes right back. But anyway, so your spine's like this, and my spine, my vertebrae is like this. And the crazy thing is, this is called grade 1. It can go like this. It can go like this. It can go all the way. So pretend that my wrist isn't here. Your spine can literally like detach from the coccyx. So basically, that's what could happen if this continues, but it's really mild right now, and I'm going to do some things to hopefully stabilize it so it won't dislocate, because unfortunately the thing with sacral spine injuries is you can still walk, but you lose other functions. Google it. Let's not do TMI today, but I'm not worried at all. Like, I really don't think, yeah, I know. Don't, yeah, I mean, if you want to help, you can donate on my Patreon for my Depends fund if that happens, you know. I don't know. What can you do? It's not happening now, but like basically the different things are connected at different places in the spine. And believe it or not, if you break your neck, you might retain sexual function, but if you break your coccyx, you might lose it. Crazy. And you can still walk though. So I'll still be able to walk. I don't know how people walk when their spine is like, because it can literally do this, but that's like really extreme. If it's been going on for a very long time, your spine can dislocate. But I'm not there yet. My spine is only like partly dislocated. Just moved, you know. So what they can do if it gets really bad and it doesn't stabilize. No, it's not even scoliosis. Scoliosis is like when your spine is like going this way or the whole thing is curved, right? But they're following a path. But this is literally like one vertebrae is like out. It's like dislocating, except dislocated would be all the way out. So it's basically what chiropractors would call subluxated, but like severely. It's called anterolisthesis. But yeah, it's pretty bad. But I mean, I think I've had it for a while, and they just weren't taking me seriously. They just kept telling me that I was fat. Fat and anxious, you know. You know how it is when you're a woman. Or they thought it was my hip, actually. Or it was arthritis or something. Yeah, and this isn't sciatica either. This is literally a bone in my spine that's like moved out of where it's supposed to. It's like if your arm came out of the socket part of the way, you know, that kind of thing. It's not sciatica. And the reason that I didn't go to a chiropractor is because the kind of injury it is pretty serious. And if they mess around and they move something the wrong way, like maybe it could hurt me more. So I didn't want to do that, especially when I didn't know exactly what it was. But for now, like, I feel remarkably good, honestly. Like, I still have pain, but it's like a 1, you know, it's just like pinches. Yeah, it's slip, but usually it's your discs that slip, but in this case, it's the vertebrae. But you know what? If it doesn't get stabilized and it's bad, they can actually operate and they can put screws in your spine. It's weird because, you know, my father had an operation like that, and he had something done in his lower back, and this was like in the 60s or something. I can't even believe they would open people's back in the 60s. Let me just see your comments. And they did it, and he was okay. Wait, what's this? Crying hippie. I'm just reading your comments. Aaron can listen to the calls. You wanted to help him out? Help Aaron out? What did you want to help him with? Yes, stop heavy lifting. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's screwed up, because you guys know the only kind of exercise I like to do really is like weight training, not heavy lifting, but apparently I can't do that. But I mean, I could probably still lift, you know, lighter weights, but I can't do like with the barbell, like the squats and stuff. I could probably do squats without the barbell, but I just feel weird that there's a bone in my spine that's like partially dislocated. I'm walking around, I feel totally fine now. It's kind of weird. I've heard of people having other injuries in their back where their neck is like broken and they're walking around and they don't even know. I'm not too worried about it though, because I think that it's only 25%. It could be a lot worse, so I'm not going to worry about it for now. And worst comes to worst, they have to put screws in my back, but I don't think I'm anywhere near that yet. Wait, let me see your comments again. Fusion of the lumbar discs. Oh no, and you can't because of osteoporosis. Eee. Yeah, that makes things more complicated. That sucks. Oops, wait, hit the wrong button. Swimming. Yeah, I hate getting wet though. Mike Tyson fought a fight after breaking his back a week earlier. Yeah, you see, you hear these stories about people having these crazy injuries. Go sailing? Where am I supposed to go sailing? Well, like Anita with the boat and the rum and coke. Yeah, I got this. I don't know anything about sailing. I'm going to go sailing on the St. Lawrence, and you'll see me on the news. Stupid woman drowns in Lachine Rapids after embarking on fitness program. Don't lift heavy things. Yeah, the thing is I can't lift Aaron's chair, which is really a problem because I'm his caregiver, and I lift his chair to put him in the to put it in the car, and because I drive him around, you know. And lucky for us, we have a big strong sun. Is it winter in Montreal yet? No. No, not winter yet. Let me just see your comments of it. Is that? No, it's not. This is just a normal vape. I don't do those kind of things. Aunt Flo doesn't indulge. A zero gravity chair. That's interesting. I looked into the flotation tanks too. Why is the thumbnail so weird? Because I'm a weird person. I don't know. I didn't know what else to put for a thumbnail. I thought I might just show off my weird faces that I have. Sitting is the new smoking. I don't spend that much time sitting. Like, I was up all day running around. Like, I do all the errands and all the housework and all the stuff. And like, well, no, I do sit in the car, though. But I was on my feet a lot because I do all the stuff for everybody around here, especially Aaron. Mike Tyson was on. Oh, really? When he said that, huh? Wait, what's this? Yeah, apparently this type of back injury is usually from trauma. But I'm like, what trauma? But the first time something happened to, okay, it used to be that if I had a bit of pain in my back, I would do some yoga and I would do some reversals. And in 2019, I got a pain in my back, which was not good, but it wasn't horrible. And I tried to do some yoga and I did a reversal and it made it so much worse. And that's when I ended up at the ER. And you guys know I did those videos about when I quit drinking that tea, the kratom tea. And I said I ended up at the ER. And I thought that the pain that I had in my hips and my back, that it had something to do with stopping that. But it turns out it doesn't. It was just... it's probably the same thing, and it's just been getting worse over time, or it sort of like flares up. And it was just like a coincidence that it happened at that time. But yes, I used to drink the tea for pain, but I don't anymore. Oh, but I've been taking willow bark, which was working pretty well. No, it's not scoliosis. It's a vertebrae that's gone off, but it's only 25% dislocated, sort of like this. It's just out of place. It can go all the way though. It could be like you have vertebrae and it goes all the way off the other, goes all the way off your coccyx. Hang upside down. I don't know. It may be good. It may not be good. I do not want to take any chances because it's my spine. And look, my husband's already in a wheelchair. We don't want two wheelchairs. No, I won't be in a wheelchair. I'll just be using Depends. I have to remember that. So what did I want to talk to you about? So I'd been on my Facebook bookmarking my links, annoying everybody. And there was this thing that was going around. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. This isn't from Canada though, but wait, you know what? I just want to touch on the Canada thing though, because, okay, so you know they're doing an inquiry. Let me see if I can find the link. Yeah, there's this. That was interesting. So they're doing an inquiry into Trudeau's use of the Emergency Act. Yes, cogit, subluxation, basically, chiropractor. I explained that because like my spinal cord is like, it was like impinged in there, and they said even the osteopath said chiropractic might be too intense for this. I mean, I'm looking into it. I watched some videos of some people who had this and went to a chiropractor who like sort of pulled their spine, but I don't know, because I have hypermobility syndrome, so I have to be extra careful with that because I might not respond to the way like the way that other people do. It might actually make it worse, and I don't want to end up disabled, so I'm holding off on that. But I'm seeing the osteopath. Well, I'm seeing an osteopath when get back to the gym. Yeah, but I couldn't even sit. I was like really incapacitated. Like I couldn't even dress myself. I couldn't tie my shoes, put my shoes on. I couldn't drive. Now it's getting better. I couldn't just go to the gym. I was like disabled for like a month, you know. Now I can do things again, thank God. But I have to be careful. I'm just so happy that I feel better. There's nothing nicer than feeling better after you've had problems, you know. Yeah, well, I'm looking into it. You can be sure that surgery is like last on my list. So, yeah, so they're looking into the Emergencies Act and that Trudeau invoked. Wait, you guys keep talking about the spine thing. I thought you're going to get bored hearing me talking about that, because people have to watch out. If somebody's like, "Oh, are you okay?" Oh my gosh. When I drove my son to his friend's birthday, and I went out of my way to drive really far because he never gets invited to birthdays. And when I got out of the car, I'll show you how I got out. Like at the time, I had to like use my hand to lift this leg, and so I get out, and then I had like my legs were all out like this, and I kind of like was like staggering next to the car, and the kid's mom was there, and you should have seen the look on her face. She was like I think she thought that I was having a heart attack or something. And I was like, it's okay, it's just my back. But then when they asked me, well, what's wrong with your back? I thought, oh, you're going to regret asking me that question. And then I had to tell them the whole story. Well, you see, in 2019, something happened, and I went to the emergency room, and I told them I thought it was my back. Let me tell you, I told them I think it's my back. They didn't listen to me. They sent me to the cancer screening clinic or whatever. They seriously thought I had a tumor, and they sent me up there to have all these scans. And then they're like, well, you don't have cancer. And I'm like, yeah, great. I didn't think I did. But that was so worn out because it was like 24 hours later. I'd been up there for basically this took 24 hours. So at the end of 24 hours, I was so worn out. I never went back to emergency to say, okay, like I don't have cancer. I didn't think I did. What is wrong with my back? I just left. So there's a bit of a history. So I feel like an old lady talking about it. And my friends are old too, because they'll be like, let me tell you, I had a kidney stone last week. Oi, it was so painful. And it's like these crazy things happening. But at least my friends are old. Some of them are older than me. So we can talk about our bad backs and our kidney stones. You know, it's like a whole new world is opening up to me. The world of middle-aged health complaints, when like we just start falling apart. Anyway, shall we talk about Canada and how everything is unraveling up here? Oh my gosh, it's already been 23 minutes. Wow, that went fast. 23 minutes of kvetching about my back. I want to tell you, oh, it's like I got to put the baby to bed. But I want to tell you about a little bit about what's going on in Canada. So they launched this inquiry into the use of the Emergency Act. And I thought this was really interesting. Apparently, CSIS had a whole memo about Trudeau's Freedom Convoy. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that word on here. How annoying is it? The NAZI symbol that was, you remember? Oh, come on. I'm sure I can say it. I seriously, you remember how Trudeau was saying if you're out there with the convoy, you're standing with the swastika, because there was some pictures of a group of people, and one of them had a flag with a swastika. So this was like the thing. The news was like fixated on that. I think the news goes for clicks also, and it also like goes to, you know, say whatever Trudeau wants, because he paid them, like he said, he paid them what, $6 billion or whatever it was, or $600 million. Anyway, so they were really focusing on that as if that represented the whole convoy. But CSIS had been down there, and they had a whole memo on it, and they knew that that wasn't true. CSIS knew. So it was a memo from CSIS during the convoy that admitted Nazis were not representative of protesters and represented only a very small portion of the crowd. Here's what the memo said. Secret memo, but I'm sure that Trudeau had a chance to see it. It seems so dishonest, doesn't it? So dishonest. I said this once before. A good leader brings people together. A bad leader divides the people. So just based on the fact that Trudeau, what he did best was divide Canadians, to me that means he's a very bad leader. No way around it. No two ways about it. So here's what the secret CSIS memo said. The Canadian flag was the most prevalent flag on display in the crowd, likely reflecting participants' belief that they are patriotic Canadians standing up for their democratic rights. A small number of flags, both purchased and self-created, reflected racist and bigoted worldviews. The presence of these flags, however, is not unique to this event and are often seen at anti-lockdown events across the country. And the name of this secret CSIS memo was Freedom Convoy 2022, The Imagery and Significance of Flags. And it went on to say, within the crowd were a very small number of flags bearing racist or bigoted imagery. And they acknowledged that many protesters, quote, added a swastika to their flag, not necessarily to self-identify as Nazis, but to imply the Prime Minister and federal government are acting like them by imposing public health mandates, which is what people said. You know, the people did use that symbol, but they were using it to criticize Trudeau. And I had gone down there with some friends, and there were posters up. Sorry, there's a street cleaner. I hope you can't hear that. There were posters up from people saying that they lived through Ceausescu's Romania and that they knew a dictatorship when they saw one. And there were people who had come from the USSR. And they said, I didn't leave that and build a life here for my family so that I could see it, see my rights and freedoms trampled on by a dictator. So that's what I saw, and that's what CSIS saw. And honestly, I think anyone who went down there and looked around would have noticed that that's pretty much what it was. And they said the convoy is part of the broader anti-public health restrictions movement. As with any movement, only a small fringe element supports the use of violence or might be willing to engage in it. And they said the service is unaware of the presence of ideologically motivated extremist groups at this weekend's protests. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? That's what CSIS said. The service is unaware of the presence of ideologically motivated extremist groups at this weekend's protests. Freedom of expression is constitutionally protected in Canada. So that's CSIS who said that, and yet Trudeau was continuing this narrative in the parliament, and even accused Melissa Lantsman, a Jewish MP from Ontario, of standing with people who wave swastikas. Not very good. Also described the protesters as tinfoil hats, and he referred to hateful rhetoric, Nazi symbolism, and racist imagery when he was talking about the convoy. That was when he was out on his, well, I guess he was at a chalet or something, and he came out, and he looked all puffy and weird, and he said they were wearing tinfoil hats. So the inquiry started on October 13th, and apparently Chris Barber and Tamara Litch are going to be testifying, and Trudeau's going to have to be there. Imagine how's Trudeau going to feel about that, having to be at the same inquiry with Tamara Litch and Chris Barber basically testifying against his narrative. I'm sure he's not going to be exactly thrilled about that. But yeah, there you have it. CSIS knew this whole time. So How did Trudeau get away with it? It's weird too, because there's all this like sort of war on fake news. I mean, you post something on Facebook that they don't like or that is not 100% accurate, and they'll say missing context or false information. You know, all the online platforms have like these extensive lists of rules to prevent people from putting up, you know, fake news or false narratives. But isn't that a false narrative that Trudeau was, you know, just maintaining? And he's the leader of the country, and he was spreading this false narrative. And CSIS, which is like the Canadian equivalent of the CIA, knew that that wasn't true. And I'm sure that Trudeau got the memo, because he is, after all, the great leader of Canada. So how could he not know? So he must have known that what he was saying was complete BS, I think, which means that he was saying it just to intentionally inflame people and divide people more. What a horrible thing to do as a leader. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, what happened to the monkeypox? Where did it go? Kind of weird, eh? That just disappeared quickly. Just sort of poof, right? Let's see what else. Oh, this was really surprising. I mean, I'd have to probably just post the link on Patreon and or Facebook. But this was, basically, you know, our Quebec media had taken like a very particular stance to the whole COVID issue and the prophylactic issue. And my socks practically flew off when I saw this. Is Amir Khadir, who was on TVA Nouvelle, saying he wasn't sure that Pfizer's product was the solution, and he was explaining, as a microbiologist, hold on, let me check what he said exactly. I mean, just the fact that this would show up on a Quebec mainstream media, that's like complete 180 from last year. Hold on, it's gonna, oh, let's see, what did he say here? Okay, so this is a microbiologist called Amir Khadir, who went on the Quebec mainstream media. And I just want to make it clear, because I know that the YouTube has certain guidelines when talking about COVID and the vaccine and all that. And I'm not making any comment on the product myself, whether it's anything, you know. But I just want to point out that Amir Khadir was allowed to say this on TVA Nouvelle. I'm not sure that the repetition of the same vaccines of the type of Pfizer are the solution. He said the strength and the weakness of the mRNA type is that they're easy to make very quickly and on a large scale. So that's the plus. Very easy to make it. Like, you know, they just actually made a new formula and they just did it like that. They actually they tested it on some mice and they're like, yeah, it works. And they basically can just, like they said originally, they can just sort of tweak the platform and they can just mass produce it. So that's the positive thing. They can make it very quickly. But he said, and again, this is not me saying it, this was Amir Khadir. I'm just telling you what he said on TVA Nouvelle, that he says that they don't produce a durable protection. May or may not be true. I'm not commenting on that. I mean, there are a lot of reports out there that say the protection is very durable, protecting you against severe disease. Everyone says that. Fauci, the CDC have said that. On the other hand, they've said the protection against infection is not very durable. So that maybe that's what he means. I'm not sure. And he says we've had the proof of this with numerous campaigns. So I think that's what he's saying, is that it doesn't last. Well, even Bill Gates said that. So that doesn't mean it's not effective. I'm not saying that. But the protection against infection is not long lasting, basically. Anyway, my point here is not to make pronouncements about the vaccine, but just to say, can you believe this was even said on TV Nouvelle? This is mainstream. I mean, imagine if CNN said something like this. You know, this is a first, I think, up here. I hadn't seen anything like that. So something's changing, because before, I think it wouldn't have even aired, but now they aired it. They let him say that. I mean, that's his opinion. So now the other thing, and this isn't related to Canada. Wait, was there something else? There was another thing related to Canada. Oh yeah, there's still quite a few lawsuits in the works. That's another thing. And, oh wait, let me look this up. What's her name? Okay, so Alberta has a new premier called Danielle Smith, and she's what they would call right-wing. What does it really mean, though? I'm not sure. But anyway, populist, sort of right-leaning. Kind of funny, eh? How, like, the pendulum really swings. And that happens, though, with politics. When people are really disgusted with the right, they swing left. When they're disgusted with the left, they swing right. And then they find out it's not actually any better, you know, most of the time. And then they go back the other way. It happens all the time. Well, anyway, Alberta's new premier, Danielle Smith, she said, these are her words, that she had never seen a group more discriminated against than the people who didn't participate in the you-know-what. And she said, okay, now apparently in our human rights charter or whatever, there's all this stuff that's been added for like gender and stuff like that. She thinks that, this is just her opinion, she thinks that vaccine status should be added to like as a fundamental human right to prevent you from being discriminated against. That's what she says. Can you imagine? The premier of Alberta is so against what happened with the sort of segregation of society that we had up here, that she's saying that this should be added as a human right, and that violating it would be a human rights violation. Interesting. And in response to this, CBC ran an article saying, well, that's fine and dandy, but what about when it comes to healthcare personnel? How could you have a policy like this? This would be reckless, because they have some mandatory shots for healthcare, which they do. Tetanus, measles, and hepatitis B. And sorry, guys, I just got a rabbit here. I used to work as a transcriptionist in the hospitals, and yeah, I had all three of those at the time. I was just scared of the needle itself. I cried because I put a needle in my arm. But I was like, yeah, do it up. And I walked away. I completely forgot about it. Never thought of it twice. Well, I mean, I had the tetanus and the MMR in like the same day. And I'd had the hepatitis shot before. And I went back for like multiple doses, you know. So the thing was, most people have had the measles shot as babies. So it's like 98%. Actually, no, in Quebec, it's lower. It's like, it's in the 80s. Which is, when they were complaining about their vaccination rates in the US, I thought, what are you guys complaining about? You should see us up here. It's like 82% for elementary and 87 or 88% for high school. Now, this was a few years ago. I don't know if it's different now. But yeah, in Quebec, it's actually not that high, surprisingly. When I saw that, I was like, what? That's much. And that's the average. So you can imagine there's places where it's even lower. And we do have outbreaks here now and then, but it's rare. But we have had some big outbreaks. But like I say, it's not often, but it has happened. But anyway, across the country, most people have had those as children, and it's supposed to last your whole life. I mean, they gave me a booster, and I guess that's what they're giving them, is boosters. But most people would still take it, you know. And tetanus is not a contagious disease. I don't know if there's particular risks in a hospital. And the other one was hepatitis, which is like blood to blood. I think it's more to protect the staff. I mean, unless they have it and they cut themselves and they give it to them. But I mean, that's their concern is, well, what about healthcare staff? So I don't know if there would be like certain exceptions or if there would be exemptions or what, but this is the direction that the Alberta Premier is going in, that it should be considered a human right. And so now the debate is more like, well, how can you let this be a human right? What about healthcare workers? And they're going to be putting people at risk. Let me know what you think. But that's quite a big difference. That's like a 180 from where we were last year or the year before. Yeah, and those are like the real, like the vaccines that we've had for a very long time, like the real basic stuff series that everyone takes. So they're not even, it's not anything new. But anyway, let me just say that the discussion has shifted quite a bit up here from where we were last year and the year before, where it was like Noam Chomsky was saying, you know, people who didn't take it should be segregated into some little sort of, I mean, I don't want to say a ghetto, but like put them somewhere. And then he literally said they should be segregated in like a closed off place, and then you just deliver food to them so they don't die. Noam Chomsky. I saw this movie once, Captain Fantastic, and it was about this dad who's raising his kids, and like they're driving around in a school bus, and he's got like 6 kids. They all have weird names like Sajan and Bodivan and stuff like that, because they were a couple of hippie parents, and the mom died, and so he's got these kids under his wing. And oh no, don't tell me I just lost my train of thought because the street cleaner is going by. Oh yeah, no, I remember what it was. And so these people in this movie, they don't celebrate Christmas, they celebrate Noam Chomsky's birthday, because they said he was a great humanitarian. Wouldn't it make more sense to celebrate Noam Chomsky's birthday? So apparently Noam Chomsky is a great humanitarian. Everybody knows that. That's why, you know, in that particular movie, he is like their sort of icon that they look up to. And the great humanitarian Noam Chomsky was saying you should put people in a segregated place and then throw them some food so they don't die. So it was like, oh my gosh, like that was a weird mindset. That was weird that happened. But things have changed. Now you have an Alberta Premier who says that that should be like a human right and that you shouldn't be discriminated against for it. Interesting. Quite a big difference. And here's another thing. You may have heard this. Boston University. Wait, I'm going to just look at your channel, your comments before. She has her own channel. You're talking about Danielle Smith. Oh, yeah. Well, she probably does. I mean, why not? I guess everybody has channels these days. Okay, in the 90s, Dusty Blue, in the 90s, I went to Ethiopia for 3 months and never got the yellow fever shot, really. Went through customs and they were more concerned with my video camera, thinking I would sell it there. No kidding. Well, I think that, I don't know, do you have to get it to go to Africa? I mean, yeah, that's in Africa. I know you have to get Japanese encephalitis vaccine to go to Japan. And encephalitis sounds pretty bad. But most places, like, you know, we talk about travel shots, but most places don't actually require it. It's just recommended. I'll tell you, there's one travel shot that I would not skip if I went to a certain place, and that would be rabies vaccine. Oh my God. If I went to India, and I'd be scared to get it, but I'd be way more scared of getting rabies. And I think that what I'd do is I just wouldn't go to India. Because India is like the world rabies capital. They have something like 1 million people get bitten by dogs every year. And a lot of those dogs have rabies. It's terrifying. And 20,000 people die every year in India from rabies. And sometimes it's because they can't get the vaccine, believe it or not. It's like not even available. So you go on your vacation and hey, like this is a PSA in case you ever go to India or you go to Goa or something. Would you hang out with dogs? Okay, wait, I'll get to that. If you go there, and you get bitten, you may not be able to get a rabies shot after. And if you do, you might get the shot, but you might not be able to get immune globulin. And even if you do get it, there's been cases where people had even the immune globulin and they still got rabies and died, maybe because it was old. There's been a few cases like that recently, where unfortunately people died even though they took the PEP. So yeah, heads up. And apparently a lot of Western tourists don't know this, and they go to India and they have no idea how high the risk of rabies is. And my friend Anne, who wrote the book My Cold War, which is about the Allen Memorial experiments, she had a friend who went to Goa who made friends with all the dogs, and she was posting all these pictures of her puppies that she had adopted and brought in her house. And one day one of these puppies bit her, and then she kind of disappeared, and the landlord went to check on her, and she was like delirious in her house, and she died of rabies. And she had no idea, I guess. She wasn't worried. Problem in India is there's a lot of dogs running around. They don't really have the money to sterilize them, and they actually passed laws, I think it was around 2004, that you're not allowed to kill them. So they're not vaccinating them. Like in the Philippines, they've had these like big efforts where they go around and they vaccinate all the dogs. And in Indonesia, and they'll put a red collar around the dog so people know. And in India, they don't do it. They don't vaccinate the dogs, and you're not allowed to kill them. They're not sterilized. They breed like crazy. They're street dogs, and they do get rabies. And in Indonesia, there was a lot of rabies too, and they would even eat dog meat, and they'd have these like stands where you could buy a dog carcass, and they tested them at one point, and 7% were positive for rabies. That's a lot. So anyway, heads up if you go out to Africa or to Asia, there's still lots of rabies out there. I just think I won't go. I don't know, maybe one day I'll work up a nerve, but I'd be scared, seriously. Anyway, this was the other thing I wanted to tell you. Probably last thing. You may have heard of this, okay? Boston University researchers' testing of lab-made version of COVID virus draws government scrutiny. Did you guys hear about this? Did you guys hear about this? So some scientists at Boston University, and Dr. Mobeen Syed, by the way, did a really great breakdown. If you want like lots of detail, he does like medical lectures. Yeah, I know, it's so crazy. Like, what? We already had one horrible virus situation. Why would you want to make it worse? Why would you even do that? Why would you mess with it? That's crazy, right? And apparently they didn't really have full permission or something like that. Okay, that's why I want to bring it up. Munchies said, yes, 80% kill rate or something. Now, I want to break it down for you because this is a based channel, as they say. I want to tell you what the deal is with this 80% that you might have heard, because yes, that would be absolutely insane. So Dr. Mobeen Syed did this really great breakdown, and like all the doctors have done the breakdown. So they took the original Wuhan virus and they cleaved to it the Omicron spike protein. Okay, that's my explanation. Very simple. I hope I got it right. Please don't flag me for medical misinformation if I missed something in there, but roughly that's it. A lab-made hybrid version of SARS-CoV-2 virus. Lab-made. There is no evidence the work was conducted improperly or unsafely. That's good. It was approved by an internal biosafety review committee at Boston's Public Health Commission. All right, that's great. But it did not clear the work with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, which was one of the funders of the project. Funding. I mean, isn't this what you call gain of function? Wasn't that like a whole big thing where they were talking about, they gave money to, what was it called? Eco Health Alliance? Remember with Peter Daszak? They gave them money, and then that group gave money to the Wuhan lab, and there was like this whole iffy thing about who was funding what. And gain of function research, yeah. Cogitatable, yes. It was banned, I thought, in, was it 2014 or 2017? Oh, they changed the definition. That's how they got around it. Well, I knew it was supposed to be banned. So anyway, they didn't clear it with the NIAID. and they went ahead and made a Frankenvirus. So let me tell you what happened. Okay, the director of the NIAID's Division of Microbiology and Infectious Diseases, and this is from Stat News, by the way, said Boston University's team's original grant applications did not specify that the scientists wanted to do this precise work. Not very honest. Nor did the group make clear that it was going to do experiments that might involve enhancing a pathogen of pandemic potential in the progress reports it provided to NIAID. So they got approval for something, but it sounds like they weren't 100% on the level. And they weren't actually, I mean, look, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I'm reading this, they weren't really approved for what they specifically were doing. They apparently weren't required to clear the study with the NIH, but apparently they were supposed to get some approval from the NIAID. So apparently this is going to be like investigated now, and they're going to figure out what really happened. So let's see, where's the part of what they did? Okay, so the paper is a preprint. Isn't this where those monkeys fell out of the truck? Oh, that was a long time ago. You know, I know where you're going with this. Like, oh, what if the monkeys were infected? And you know what? If that had happened, and then it would have been out by long. And if it was contagious and it was super deadly, it would have already happened. Like, this is way down the road. And I don't think that was the case. There's like a woman was like bitten or scratched or spat on or something, and the concern was it wasn't anything like that. It was something else that monkeys always can potentially carry that gives you like pink eye and some stuff like that, and she was treated for it. So no, I don't think the monkeys had any lethal virus. So in the paper, Saeed and colleagues reported on research they conducted that involved creating a hybrid or chimeric virus. By the way, if any of you are not on my Patreon or you don't know that I have one, I do have one. Now the link isn't below this video, sorry, but it's patreon.com/thetruthergirls. If you want to join, you can message me there and get extra info, get links, and get notified when I post a live or when I post a video, so you don't miss it. And so be part of our little community, and support my channel. Thank you. And that means my osteo treatments as well. Thank you. So, okay, they conducted involving creating a hybrid or chimeric virus in which the spike protein of an Omicron version of SARS-2 was fused to a virus of the Wuhan strain. That's what I said. The original version that emerged from China in 2020. Okay, yes, we know Omicron was 2021. The goal of the research was to determine if the mutations in the Omicron spike were responsible for this variant's increased ability to evade immunity to SARS-2 that humans have built up, and whether the changes led to Omicron's lower rate of severity. Here's the scary part. The testing actually showed, though, that the chimeric virus was more lethal to a type of lab mice than Omicron itself, killing 80% of mice infected. This is where the 80% comes from. As they mentioned somewhere else in the article, that the Omicron strain caused mild illness in the mice. But this Franken strain that they made in the lab, who knows what possessed them to do that, that's so crazy, killed 80% of the infected mice. That's where that comes from. But here's the thing that you need to know, because most articles that have commented on this have left this part out. Importantly, the original Wuhan strain killed 100% of mice it was tested in. So the original COVID Wuhan strain killed 100% of the mice. So obviously it didn't kill 100% of people that got it. So what that tells you is that how the mice and the people respond to this is not the same, right? And, you know, I mean, this is really serious, the fact that they did make this chimeric virus and that they had issues with, it's not cleared by the NIAID, and that it was more deadly than Omicron. But you guys are all familiar with the original Wuhan strain. Some of you have also had it. And the Wuhan strain was 100% fatal to mice. And this chimeric strain was 80% fatal. So just to put it in perspective, still not cool. I mean, because right now we have Omicron, so let's just, let's not push our luck. Why would anybody want to make this more dangerous again? So what, we can go backwards? But I wanted to let you know, that's a really important detail that most people who are reporting on this have left out. So that was pretty much it. That's what I wanted to tell you about that. They really did do that, but it may not be as deadly to people as it was to mice. We don't know. But the mice didn't do well at all with COVID. So I think that's pretty much it. And also I found this little funny story here before I sign off, which I'm going to have to do in a minute. Here's a little story about alcohol and fats. It's a relief to know the truth after all these conflicting medical studies. The Japanese eat very little fat and suffer fewer heart attacks than the British or Americans. The French eat a lot of fat and also suffer fewer heart attacks than the British or Americans. The Japanese drink very little red wine and suffer fewer heart attacks than the British or Americans. The Italians drink excessive amounts of red wine and also suffer fewer heart attacks than the British and Americans. The Germans drink a lot of beer and eat a lot of sausage and fats and suffer fewer heart attacks than the British or Americans. So the conclusion is, eat and drink whatever you like. It's speaking English that apparently kills you. That's a joke. I thought it was funny. So basically that's what I wanted to share with you, those stories. Let me know what you think. I'm just looking at your comments again. Those lab mice, yeah, I don't know if they were humanized mice. It is kind of weird that it was so much deadlier for them. I mean, 100% fatal. There's like this crazy deadly virus called the Henipa virus, which is 100% fatal. And remember that lab in Winnipeg where there were like these Chinese scientists that like tried to smuggle something out of it and they got busted and it was a whole big story. I don't remember all the details anymore. And then there was supposed to be an inquiry. And then I think that the Trudeau administration like put roadblocks in the way so they couldn't really find out what happened exactly. Well, Henipa virus was one of them that they were working with. Yeah, Natalie, I heard about that too. And I heard it also from Dr. Campbell, and he's pretty based, as I say. Thank you, Jay. Oh, you guys are fermenting food, huh? That's cool. I was just reading about how to ferment sauerkraut. Apparently, it's pretty easy. You like to take your kraut and you put salt in it, and that'll do it. Put it in a jar. Well, I got to go because it's late, and I have to get Gunnar to bed. Yeah, there seems to be like some backlash against the whole wokeism also in Canada, somewhat. They're trying to like figure things out. 50 pounds of cabbage. Yeah, the Germans used to do that. You know what the Germans did for their vegetables in winter? I'm going to go. Thanks, Darko. I hope you have a good night too. I'm just going to tell you one more thing. My mother grew up in Germany, right? They used to have this giant, like huge barrel in the basement, and they'd fill it with the cabbage and they'd put the salt in it and they'd ferment this giant thing of sauerkraut in the basement, and they get their vitamin C from there, which is pretty amazing. And you know what they did with the carrots? This was the trick my mother told me to keep your carrots fresh. You put them in sand. Who knew? That's what they did. They would harvest all these carrots and they would store them in sand, and they would keep them like that for the winter. Wartime tricks from my German mother. Okay, well, it's been fun, but I should go. I hope you guys are all doing well. It's been fun chatting with you. I'm going to try to do these lives on Tuesday nights. I try not to do them so late, though. This was like really late. My intended schedule is to do my live somewhere between 7 and 9, but sometimes like I'm just so tired in the evening and it takes a while. Then I get a second wind. I get the midnight crazies and I come on here late. But if you want to catch me live, come around, you know, check in like, or have your notification thing on around like between 7 and 9. I'm going to try to stick with that. And I'm going to try to put out a video on Thursday. That's my plan, but I will have a live and a video every week. I'm still working on that Anita video too. It's not done yet though. I hope you get a laugh out of it. So thank you. Thank you again for joining me. Thanks for all your support. Don't forget, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/thetruthofgirls. I have a PayPal button on my channel banner, also on my actual channel. On the banner on the lower right, there's a PayPal button if you'd like to donate. No pressure. So thanks a lot, you guys, and I'll see you soon. Have a good night.